Hello everyone, welcome back to another 30 Minutes with podcast where we chat to a footballer or manager about their career and their interests and hobbies. I'm delighted to be joined today by a man who makes alligators think twice about entering into a wrestling contest with him. A man who I've been assured can bench press a Ford Cortina as well. It is none other than Oldham Athletic manager Dino Maamria. Dino, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for the introduction, James.
Is it two Ford Cortinas or is it just the one that you usually bench press before breakfast?
I don't always bench press. I do once a week bench pressing. I do different things. I try and keep myself fit and healthy. I've always thought when I'm a player, when I finish playing, I see few footballers and few managers pile on the weight. I'm always conscious of that. I've got to always maintain a healthy lifestyle when I finish playing. And I can safely say I'm managing that so far. But it's getting tougher with my old age, I would say.
You do better than many of us, I can assure you of that. So this strange situation you find yourself in right now, what are you and your players doing to maintain, I guess, both your fitness levels and sort of your ear to the ground on what's happening in football?
Well, it is very strange, very bizarre situation we live in as a world, really. It's something I see it as a pause in time, a reflection time. It's not just about football; it's about life. It's about priorities. And funny enough, when we think as a world, we think we cracked it. A certain virus comes in and stop the world. We stop still, really, and then we end up relying on our brains, relying on people that are going to save lives, and the priorities change. Having said that, in terms of our business in football, I was in contact with the players when this happened, and the message was, it's uncertainty. We don't know when we're going to come back. We got to try and maintain some type of fitness level. We keep communicating with each other all the time, not necessarily football, about life, about there for each other's, not just the players, as football club, as staff, friends, family. It's really important to communicate with each other every day and to push away that anxiety people feeling in all type of life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's such a sad time as well at the moment with the number of people passing away, and huge credit to, I think, the people we sort of underappreciated for many years. All the people who stack the shelves at supermarkets, the nurses, the healthcare workers, the doctors, all the people who are now actually proving to be very key to keeping society going in any normal semblance, compared to, say, the rather superficial world of celebrities that kind of is put out there in glossy magazines and the press more often than not.
Absolutely. It puts the world into perspective, really, and that's why I says it's a reflection time for all of us to see what's important in life. And I think we're fortunate we're fortunate to experience it. It's not fortunate for our loved ones to lose them with the virus, but I think will make us stronger. I think as people, as human beings, hopefully we'll come out of it on the side. I'm certain of that, and a huge amount of learning for people, for nations, for government, and hopefully we'll come out as better people and to create a better world for them in the future.
Yeah, let's hope it refocuses a few priorities, and just people will generally be nicer to each other going forward. And I wonder if people have got going to have so much toilet roll spare by the end of this. All those people who bought 5,000 rolls or whatever it was.
I think that's certainly our household. We've been very, very regular to what we've been doing. We've been very actually, it's been great for us in terms of how we're living at home. Everything put everything into perspective, and I don't think we did any of the shopping that people have been doing. So we maintain it that way.
One thing that people who don't know you too well might not be aware is that you usually have to work away from your family, and you come back. I think I heard you say you come back on a Tuesday night, and then you're back up to Oldham on a Wednesday evening.
Of course, I'm. When you get to football management, I think it's really impossible to keep moving your family. And as a footballer, you go and sign your 2 or 3 years contract and you go and settle the family. But as a manager, we know the longevity of the jobs that we've got to do. So obviously try and keep the family home where it is, the kids in the same school. And I've got to do the traveling. But it doesn't really bother me, the traveling is part of the job. It actually gives me a lot of time in my car to do a lot of phone calls, a lot of thinking time, a lot of planning. So I use the car journey to my benefit. But what's that denying is that denying me that quality time with the kids, especially growing now. I've got a 5 and 6 year old, and they're growing fast. And I'm taking this opportunity now to spend as much time as with them, and it's been great for us.
I bet it has. Let's hope as well football can survive financially during this time. I know that there are lots of talk about how this crisis will put a strain on clubs, especially in the lower league. Let's just hope that everything comes out well with that. I'm going to jump back to how you personally first got into football, because you grew up in Tunisia. What was life like for you as a kid?
I grew up more or less on the verge of the desert. We didn't have a lot. My father he works in the mines. My mother, she looks after the kids. We've got a large family. I've got 5 brothers and a sister. I got obsessed with football after watching the 1978 World Cup, where Tunisia is doing fantastic. They beat Mexico 3-1. They drew with West Germany. They were champion 0-0, and unfortunately they lost to Poland 1-0, and they disqualified from first round. Having said that, that inspired the nation, that inspired me, and from that moment, I got that obsession with football, where my folks was talking about football. I knew exactly where my route is going, and it was tough, like you said, where I come from. I was about 350 miles away from the capital. In Tunisia, at that time, there is only one league, professional league, 12 teams, and most of those teams, they by the coast and by the north of Tunisia, near the capital. And the nearest professional club to me was about 200, 300 miles. So it wasn't easy at all. But I think that's just that determination, that strength of character, and that focus to achieve what you set out to achieve. And I've been fortunate in my journey as well. I think you got to earn your luck, and I've gone on really to, I wouldn't believe, looking back now, where I came from or where I am today. But if that proves anything, that proves that everything is possible.
Indeed. Well, most people would complain about a 1-mile journey to their school. How far was yours?
Well, I do 10 mile there and back a day. So it was quite far. I go through a long way walking in the morning, 7 in the morning. Don't come back till about 5, 6 at night. As a 5 or 6 year old, is quite it's built of character really.
So it's a 20-mile round trip every day on foot.
No, 10 miles, 10 mile round trip. So
10-mile round trip.
Yeah. So for a 5 or 6 year old, later on we moved. When I was 7, I think we moved closer. But my first 2 years certainly but you don't think any different, because that's how you were born. That's how you got put in that environment. I don't know any better, and it becomes norm. And I don't think when you have those type of challenges, and I had many challenges in life, it puts everything into perspective, and that puts you in good stead for the future. And thankfully, I've been, like I said, I've raised in a great family. My father and my mother, they're very, very hardworking people, and I set my life into that, really.
You did indeed, and you were so obsessed with football. Tell us, you had a goat and you named him Gary. Is that right?
Yeah, obviously, in the desert you have your goats and you have your chicken. You have everything in where I grew up, and obviously the little goat was born. And we grew up together. He was a baby goat, and I was a 6, 7 year old or whatever. Obviously, Gary Lineker was the most famous English player at the time, and we drew similarity between Gary Lineker and the goat.
Did he have big ears? This goat, did he?
No, he was just actually their character is probably more of the quiet type, the nice type. It was different. I don't know how me and my brother came up to that name, but we came up with that name, and now it's well known in England. Everybody asks me about the goat. Even my little boy keep asking about the goat, and I tell him it's a long time ago. If you go back home now, if you go back to Tunisia, you won't find the goat anymore. So it's a good story, but we all grow up with pets. My pet with the goat. My little girl, she keeps telling me she wants a little pony. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, keep it in the garage. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm sure animal welfare will love that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's all right. I'm sure Gary Lineker's well aware that he's been named after a famous goat now, so that's good.
I think he is aware.
Yeah. So, I mean, your break came. You must be very happy that Brian Miller took his holidays in North Africa, I can assume.
Yeah, well, it was Clive Middlemas first. I think he's the one that he got it going, and then I tell players now and I tell kids, and you never know who's watching. You always got to perform your best football, because you certainly wasn't aware when I got picked once or twice or whatever times, how many times I picked, because I got picked before that. And, when I was playing, I didn't think that people would be watching you, but you get fortunate and you happen on a good day. And like he says, the rest is history. You end up coming to England, 95, I think 96. I can't really remember that long ago. And football then was different. England then, it was different to England now. There isn't that many foreign footballers. They just about start coming now. Certainly my first club that I went to, Burnley Football Club, it was certainly, there's a couple of Scottish guys, but apart from that, they're all English. The language barrier was a problem because in Tunisia,
I bet it was with the Scottish chaps. Jeez,
it was, especially. I remember Ted McMinn, and he's a great character and great player, and he was the heart and soul of the dressing room. And all the word with Ted is an effing word, and I'm thinking I certainly didn't learn that language in my school. You learn the proper English in Tunisia, and you come to England, and you find the Cockney, you find the Northwest accent, you find the Scouse accent, you find the Scottish, and I was lost in that dressing room. And I'm thinking, I used to ring my family. I said, these guys don't speak English, that's for sure.
Did you ask them? Did you put me on the right plane? Am I even in England?
Yeah. So yeah, that was challenging. There is many other challenges as well. I'm a coffee drinker. And where I come from, we've got a coffee culture. And then I come to England. There was no coffee shops in 95, 96. If you're going to get to coffee, you got to go to Marks and Spencer's. And in Marks and Spencer's, the canteen or the cafeteria area, that's where you get coffee. And if you go to the pub, everybody go to the pubs, especially in the Northwest, after training with the players. And if I ask for a coffee, people look at me funny. So all this, it was really learning. It was a great experience for me. And like I said, I think he builds your character, builds your resilience. And I got a very, very unfortunate injury as soon as I came in. And it kept me out for about 18 months. And the easy option for me was I was getting callbacks, phone calls from Tunisia to go back to one of the bigger clubs. And it would have been so easy for me to think, well, the weather is tough here. The lifestyle is tough. I go back home. I go back where people know me, where I'm comfortable. And that wasn't for me. And I decided that, I had this break and I've got to take hold of it and I've got to make it happen. And it wasn't easy for me at the beginning. Like I said, I was out for 18 months. And
this is how it got you into coaching almost, wasn't it? Because you had to fill your time with something, and you got into coaching Burnley's youth players, their academy kids, players like Jay Rodriguez, who obviously came through during your time.
Yeah.
So that has obviously given you an excellent head start, or gave you the head start you needed perhaps later in your career.
Well, I think that's what I tell people here. We have to mature I tell my young players now, you have to think early about your career. And I was fortunate enough to have the level-headed where what I'm thinking, I've got these long injuries. What am I going to do? I'm going to try and get fit and feel sorry for myself, or make something out of it. I had this time, and Burnley Football Club was fantastic in terms of to give me the opportunity. I used to try and get fit in the day, and at night time, 2 or 3 nights a week, I go and coach the 12 and 13, 14. And I've done that for a number of years, and that's when I got into coaching. That's when I've done my coaching badges while I was still playing. and I coached at the academy at Burnley for a good 10 years probably. We had many players like Jay Rodriguez you just spoke about, and that was the beginning of a good thing for me, because when I took my first managerial job at Northwich Victoria in 2007, I've already had thousands of coaching sessions under my belt. When I stood in front of the players to give my first team talk, I've already done hundreds of those. So that's why I tell those players now, it's really difficult for footballers. Frank Lampard did it really well, but the footballers who finish playing at 35, 36 and go straight away, they never coach in their life, to go managing, I think they're going to find it really difficult, because you need that time on the training pitch. You need that. I tell my players now, if you're thinking about coaching in the future, why don't you do some coaching with the academy at night time? Get the work done, they get the hours in to make you a better coach, make you understand, because coaching is different, totally different to playing.
That's right. I've heard other coaches say time served on the grass, training players, no matter what level it is, what age group, it will really put you in good stead going forward. And it certainly did you, because you came into Northwich Victoria and they were like a dead duck, weren't they? I mean, there was no way anyone could see you getting life into this team. Yet, how did you manage it?
Well, that's true. I think it was. I think Neil Redfern got sacked. We had a really poor start. 16 games, 1 point out of 16. I think horrific start. I think the bookies. I remember my chairman telling me the bookies stopped taking bets on us to go down. We got the threat of administration. We got a new consortium coming in. I had all this problem going on, and when I got the call from the chairman, I thought, well, I'm 36 at the time, I think, and I've built myself. I've done okay as a player, but I'm building myself to life as a manager, and I got this opportunity. It's never going to be a perfect opportunity for any manager in the first job, and either take it or shy away from it. And obviously, this is my self-belief. I took it. The first 2-3 months, they were very, very difficult, challenging many levels, because 1 minute I was a player in that dressing room, then I'm managing that. We had the consortium changeover as well of ownership. And I remember we got to January, and the new chairman we had a board meeting, and he told me, he says, Dino, we got two options here. Either we go to administration and we take another 10 points deduction and we certainly go down to the Conference North, or we come back to you if you are sure about yourself and we don't go to admin and see if we can keep us up. And obviously, you know what I'm going to do. I've backed myself to make sure to keep the club. And that created friction with the boardroom level, because some of them didn't believe I'd be able to do that. But my chairman, if I remember, Nick Bone, at the time, he was brilliant, and he backed me, and we cracked on. And I turned over January. I've made a lot of change in the dressing room. And then we had a fantastic second half of the season. And we actually stayed up with the game to spare. And funny enough, the game where we stayed up, we beat Stevenage at Stevenage 2-1 on a Tuesday night. I remember it vividly. It was the 22nd of April 2008. We beat them 2-1. They needed the win to win the game to get to the playoff with Peter Taylor, their manager, and I needed to win it to stay in the league. And we beat them, and then I've got awarded the manager of the league award, and it was a huge achievement for me as my first job.
Massive achievement, yeah.
Yeah, but if I look back at it now, I'm thinking, well, it was sheer determination, sheer willingness, driving those players. I didn't really know a lot. It was my first managerial job. I'd be lying to say I know it all. I still don't know it all now. As a manager, you're always learning. You get better by time and age. And like I said, I think we achieved that as a group through sheer determination, really.
And that was in a division with some managers who've also gone on to manage in the EFL and the Premier League. Chris Wilder, of course, was the manager. Was he at Halifax at that time?
Well, funny enough, Chris Wilder, it was at Halifax, and we caught them up, and it was a relegation battle between us and them, and I can't remember who's all the teams around us at the time. And I remember, Chris Wilder's Halifax gone down, unfortunately, that season, and we stayed up. And I remember Chris Wilder texting me after the Stevenage game, and he's saying he can't believe I did it. He says you needed snookers, not just one. And you know, great to see Chris Wilder has gone to the Premier League now. He's a fantastic manager, fantastic guy. At the time, we had Steve Evans when he was at Crawley. I had Teasdale, he was at MK Dons. He was ex at the time. We had a few managers at that league at that time. They went on to be established Football League managers. The names goes on. I might miss one or two, but I think there is a strong group the time of managers that are going on to establish themselves in the football league.
Indeed, and your next spell, or indeed the next. I mean, you obviously left Northwich, but you ended up becoming established as a number 2 this time with Graham Westley at Stevenage, didn't you?
Yeah. After obviously Northwich, the following season we hit financial trouble, and it's unfortunate to see them go back to 2 or 3 division below. That was always difficult, and that's the challenging times in football, in the lower leagues football. Then I had obviously I was established manager at that level. I had a few calls from other conference clubs. One of them, probably Cambridge, approached me at the time. And the other one was Graham Westley. Graham Westley was my manager at Stevenage as a player. I was there for a good 4 years as a player for him. The chairman, Phil Wallace, they were insisting on bringing me back to assist Graham. And the temptation was always there. I had a great time. Stevenage is a very, very close club to my heart. And I ended up going there with Graham. I believe the journey that we're going to take together. And we had a fantastic 5 or 6 years, I think. We took the club when I joined Stevenage in November, I think, 2008. The club was 19th in the league, they had a very, very difficult start up to the end of November, really. And then I've gone in with Graham. I brought in a couple of players with me. One of them is Mark Robert from Northwich, Victoria.
Yeah, that's a great player.
And we cleared the decks a little bit. Sometimes I remember telling Graham this, when he's in the middle of it, he doesn't. You end up losing sense of it, and he was having a tough time. He had a big squad, and I came in with a fresh pair of eyes, and he was a great listener, Graham. And I've told him how it is. I think after a week or 2 weeks, we sat down together and we drew up a plan together going forward. And part of the plan was probably to trim the squad from 30-man squad to about 20 players. And he was brilliant with that. He listened to that, and we cleared the decks. And we've gone on to 24 games unbeaten run. And we end up actually having a great season that season. We will beat York City in the trophy final at Wembley, and then we end up losing at Cambridge United in the semi-final playoffs. But when I came back when I came to the club in late November, it was nowhere near where we end up. I think as a club, we've gone 24 games unbeaten. We had a fantastic finish to the season. And the following season, we've gone on to win the league.
Well, you laid those foundations in the campaign, didn't you, for the next year? Because I remember it well, because I was a season ticket holder at Oxford United the season after we had Chris Wilder as our manager.
Yeah.
And there was no catching you. You just took the league by storm.
Yeah, I think the first year we built that squad of players. We kept that squad of players the following season. I think we only signed 2 or 3. And then we were determined. The loss at Cambridge hurt us a lot in the semi-final. And without that day, we got to be a champion the following season, and we did that. And it was a great group of players.
Well, I remember you had John Ashton, who was at Oxford. I remember I met him down at Stevenage, and I teased him. I said, "You were rubbish for Oxford, but how come you were so good for Stevenage?"
Well, I think they developed. We had a right group of players at the right time of their career. We gave them the right motivation level as well. They were together. They were ambitious. Graham was brilliant for selling them that dream, and the togetherness of that group was brilliant, and they made history. We've gone the same group. We won promotion from the conference, and then we won promotion from League 2 to League 1. And before we left to Preston, we were 5th in League 1, and we ended up in the playoffs, League 1. They lost to Sheffield United in 2012, I think. So I think that group of players gone on to great things, and we could have easily got promotion to the Championship.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, you did then, of course, get the call from Preston, where you and Graham went up there. That time at Preston didn't prove to be successful, but what lessons did you take, and what did it open your eyes to as to the sort of the pressures further up the pyramid?
Looking back at it, it's 2 things, I think. The first thing was, I think it's a mistake for us at the time to go there. Because Preston had, they've been top 6 in the Championship. Their budget was huge. They had 2 or 3 managers. They had a strong dressing room, and 2 or 3 managers failed to get the best out of that dressing room. They were struggling in League 1. They needed a good clear out, Preston. And probably that's the job it wasn't for us at the time. I think what we should have done is we should have stayed with Stevenage that time. I believe we could have got Stevenage promoted to the Championship that season. But to be fair to Graham, he's an ambitious person, and Preston Football Club Preston North End is a huge club, and we end up going there, and we found this so difficult in terms of fighting fires in every direction. I think. I'm not sure. I think the budget was about 7 or 8 million, and from that we got it down to 3 million. And that's your job, was a huge task.
Yeah.
And then you upset a lot on the way to do that. And then I'd like to think that we left them with a good squad of players, which Simon Grayson came in, and he's done brilliant after that. But I think I certainly can draw a lot from it because from managing a club like Stevenage, with a fan base of 2,000 people, 2,500 people, to a fan base of you got your minimum is 10,000 at Preston North End with that expectation level. I think I find that Oldham now, and I'm drawing a lot of my experience from Preston to make sure that we do a better job at Oldham now. And I think as a manager, I think you've got to make sure you challenge yourself and look for bigger and better, bigger jobs, I think, and more expectation on you, and to test yourself and see how far you can go.
Well, indeed. I mean, you went back to Stevenage, and it was it was a heartbreaking campaign in some respects, but it was a very fruitful campaign. You ended the season just missing out on the playoffs, 70 points, and it looked, for all intents and purposes, that you were going to gear up for another attack on the promotion places during the start of this season.
Well, we had listen, when I took the job after Nuneaton, I think 2018, the club was struggling for a couple of years. I think they were 19th, 18th in the league when I took the job. When I took the job, I remember Phil Wallace, the chairman, telling me clearly he brought me in now to make sure we stay in the league, because I remember we were 9 points behind the bottom two. And we got huge games, which is, I think one of them was Grimsby away and the other one was Barnet at home. And we had to pick up points from these two games. Barnet, they were, if they beat us, would be 6 points or 5 points. It's 10 games to go, I think. And the job was to make sure that to win enough points at that time to stay in the league, which when I came in, we did that straight away. And then straight away when that season finished, 2017-18, I've got into the market quite strongly early doors. I had my list straight away, and the chairman was brilliant in terms of we got our targets quite early before even I go to my holiday. I had my squad ready for pre-season from day one. From pre-season that season, I had a presentation with them. I've told them, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to achieve, and that's how we're going to do it. And everybody was on board. And we end up having overall a fantastic season. To get 70 points, Stevenage, I think in the Football League, they got 70 points twice. Once they got in the playoffs, and when we started with 1 point. And like I said, I think we won 20 games. Only two teams in the league the last season won more than 20 games, which is MK and Lincoln City. So it was a great season. It was heartbreaking to miss out with a point, but it was very, very encouraging as my first season in charge. Obviously, last summer it was a lot of learning as well. I think if you all look back at that, I think the chairman of the football club, Stevenage, myself, we look back and we think we made a lot of mistakes in the summer. I think our recruitment should have been better. We've gone with a strategy where I missed out on my big target in early summer. We've gone for, my chairman called it the bargain bucket in August, where he waited for cheaper players. That certainly didn't work. And we end up forced to sign a panic signing at the end of the window when we're desperate for players. And you look back as well, and you look at I had a huge injury list through pre-season, and I look back again. I remember starting the season with 8 of my first 11 from the previous season injured, and I look back again, and you got to look back and to learn from it. And I thought our pre-season we went to Jersey Island, and Jersey it was a great place. But the AstroTurf pitch, the 3G pitch, wasn't great for the players. The training pitch wasn't great for the players, and I think we picked a few injuries from there. And when you start the season with 8 of your first team, and I end up giving debut to 3 of my youth team players, is always going to be difficult. And I look back at the poor start. The poor start in 7 games, I says we didn't win in 7 games. I got the sack after 7 games. And those 7 games really probably the club will look back at that thinking they've gone too quickly to fire me too quickly without a shadow for that, because I was certain if I got at least another 2 or 3 games, we would have won games without a shadow for that, because wherever I've been, I won football matches, and I will continue doing that. And I think it's unfortunate where Stevenage are now. If they're honest with themselves, they look back at that and thinking we made huge mistakes in terms of changing management after 7 games.
Well, this is a thing that people who listen to our podcast regularly will know. I'm actually really sort of down about that managers don't get time. And it seems as well that it only takes one bad run now and you're gone. And, you know, there's been several managers over the years. Sir Alex Ferguson is the most obvious one, who had some really poor campaigns with Manchester United before he got it right. But I mean, there's other clubs that, like Oldham, for example, had Joe Roll for years. John Rudge at Port Vale, and these guys all had success, and it wasn't because they were given the boot as soon as you had one bad spell. I mean, we've actually seen managers since we've been doing D3, D4 who've lost their job within 4 games of a new season, which to me is just, it's lunacy.
It's so true. I don't get it. I don't get why. If you're looking for a quick fix, listen, there's some fantastic chairmen in the Football League where they give managers time. Time equal success without a shadow of a doubt. Like you named a few now, there is no, like you said, I was a Stevenage for 18 months. That was the only bad run I've had. The season before, I was top 10 all season. The first bad run I had in 7 games, and that's clearly because I had the injury list I had. And I thought that was, and they are at the bottom of the league now, and they are struggling big time, and they look back at that and are thinking, well, that's what you saw, what you reap, what you sow, if that makes sense. And you made that decision to change early, and you pay the price. And listen, the Stevenage fans and the Stevenage people, if they always, everybody looks for a scapegoat, and if they look to keep blaming me for everything that happened to Stevenage, they can do that. I look back, I made mistakes without a shadow of a doubt. I learned from that to make myself a better person, better manager in the future. But listen, I left 7 games ago. I left the 9th of September, I think it was. It's a long time since then. Like I said, if they show some, if they look back in the mirror and show some honesty and dignity, they look back at that and they're thinking, well, actually, they are fundamental things going wrong at the football club. He's not Dino who's there till 9th of September. And that's clear for everybody to see.
Well, there's no such thing as it's one man being the archetype, downfall of any club. I mean, Stevenage have been through 4 managers, I think, this season, including yourself. So it's clearly you can't take, like you say, you made mistakes in that, but there has been a number, I think, of errors, and I think Stevenage fans that we know well know they have. It's been a season where there's been a lot of things that haven't gone as they should have gone right, and it's left them at the moment bottom of the Football League.
Well, there is no question whatsoever. If I was still the Stevenage manager, Stevenage would be nowhere near where they are right now. And but listen, like I said, I'm a great believer in the story of the sower. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's a story from Jim Rohn. And he talked about the law of sowing and reaping, and I'll be quickly about it. And when you go and sow, and some of the birds, you drop some of the sow around the seeds at the side of the farm, like you say, and some of the birds will come and get some of those seeds, and then that's when you get a choice. 2 choices to go and chase after the birds to keep your seeds, or to carry on sowing. And like I said, I always carry on sowing. I don't look back. And when you keep doing that, you'll always reach that rich ground, if that makes sense. And hopefully you reap what you sowed. And it's learning for everybody. And I'm at a great football club now. and I've got a lot. I had a lot of learning, not just last job, the previous jobs as well. And I think I'm in good position to take Oldham Athletic forward.
Well, you're certainly a man who likes a challenge. And when you joined Oldham Athletic, they had been through a torrid time. New owners who had kind of lost, I think, the support of the fans. They'd lost it fairly quickly. They'd taken the team down. They'd recruited, from an outside perspective, really badly. They've got a model where they decided to go for a lot of foreign players. If you watch League Two football like we have for a long time, you know that there's nothing wrong with signing foreign players, but you have to have a spine of players who know the level and are good professional players at League Two level. And Oldham obviously hadn't done that. It was quite this summer particularly, so the squad that you inherited, there were a lot of players in there that fans would look at and think, dear me, Urko Vera's one, Sonny Seffel was another who got a lot of criticism from fans. So you've come in there, you've known that this is a chairman who has perhaps been a bit rash with his decisions regarding getting rid of managers in the past. How did you approach that, Dino? How did you broach that with them to form a relationship where you could work with these guys?
Well, I think the first thing is when I met the chairman, I saw in his eyes he's an honest, hard-working, ambitious person. He had no agenda but for Oldham Athletic to get Oldham Athletic out of League Two to League One and then move on from there. And that's what drove me to take the job. I make mistakes as a manager. Owners make mistakes. Signing the squad of players, you're never going to get everybody right. If you do well to sign 10 players and 5 of them will come off well, you do well to do that. And I've been in football long enough to know that. Like I said, I think they realize that there is mistakes being made. They realize that they need to change. They realize they need experience at the level. And to be fair to him, he gave me the job and he trusted me to do what I needed to be doing. He invested a huge amount of money at the football club. And when I came in, I've told him the first thing is about stability first, because the club has gone over the last 2 years a turmoil in terms of changing management. They dropped down from League One to League Two, and that's where my Preston experience will put me in a good stead. Where the first thing I said, let's first and foremost, let's trim the squad down. I think I had 31 players when I came in. 31 players. When you have the 30 plus players in League Two, you're never going to keep everybody happy. You pick 18 for Sapi and then you got 12, 13 on the stand. And every footballer, and I keep saying this, they think they should be playing. There is no footballer thinking of themselves they're rubbish playing. Every footballer thinks they're good. And when you have 13 of them not playing, obviously that's not going to create a good camp. So the first thing for me was to make sure to trim that squad down. To do that, we had to wait till January and then bring some... what you're saying about quality, experience, players at the level, they know what it takes in League Two level. And the chairman has been fantastic in terms of backing me to bring in the like of Carl Pigiani, the like of Chris McCann, the like of Daniel Rose, Zach Durney. This is a fantastic characters first and foremost, and fantastic players. And to add with that is Cameron Bothwell Jackson from Manchester United as well. So January we brought in some really, really good quality players, and now we're building for next season. And the fans see that, and I think Oldham fans are one of the most passionate fans I've ever come across. Especially their away support is absolutely unbelievable, and we're determined to do it for those faithful fans. They've gone through a lot at Oldham. I think the last success they had with Joe Royle, like you said, is back in the mid-90s. That club is due for some success, and I'm determined to be the one to bring success to that football club.
Well, we've seen what you can achieve with the squad. You've had some games at home this season where you beat Mansfield, Bradford and Newport. 5-0 against Newport. That's some of the best football we have seen at this level since doing D3, D4. The frustrating thing, though, is that it's been unable to be achieved on the road. Is there something that you're sort of working on to try and get the away form to meet that kind of standard, which was superb?
Well, I think it's challenging for me, and I'm learning from it as a manager as well. I know to win a League Two. I know to win the league. You got to be resilient defensively first and foremost. You got to build a defensive base and then attack at the back of that. Not many teams will win promotion playing expansive football in League Two. Listen, there is one or two who did it. with a huge budget. But to work on a limited budget, there's a certain way to do how to do it. And when I came to Oldham, there was a lot of talented players, but they like to play with the ball, but without the ball, they're not interested whatsoever. I call them fair weather players. I had fair weather players, and no disrespect to them. They're good players, good talent players, but they need to learn. In League Two is different way. League Two, when you're not on your game, you got to be resilient. You got to scrap for every little bit. You got to cover every blade of grass. You got to do those basics. So when you're not having a good game, you win a game 1-0 and you keep clean sheet, or you draw away from home 1-0 on a bad day. On a good day, you go beat Newport 5-0, you go beat Bradford 3-0, or Mansfield 3-0. You go and have a brilliant. That's on a good day. But on a bad day, you got to make sure that you do those basics right. So my challenge as a manager, the team that I inherited had no basics. They, like I said, they're happy to play with the ball. Without the ball, they're not interested. So it was learning for me to keep emphasizing those points to the players. But then the key is not for me to turn them to a robot where they lose that freedom, that expression in their play. I don't want them to. So to do that is quite a fine balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And probably our performance sums up that. It goes up and down. When we hit form, we're very, 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 very good. And we don't play as well, and we're not very good. And I think that's the spine of the team, the resilience of the team. And it's a team in progress, by the way, because like I said, I made about 8 or 9 signings in January. We played about 7 or 8 games together, and that team still needs gelling together. And my focus is this season it is what it is. We try and finish it as strong as we can be. But my learning bit now is to make sure that this summer, whenever the next season is going to start, I've got to make sure that our recruitment is spot on. I've got to make sure that our recruitment keeps the club financially in a good place. We've got to be smart in our recruitment and conservative as well. Got to make sure that I've got to bring winning players with winning characters to make sure that we'll be challenging the top 3 next season.
Indeed. And are you confident your owner's going to give you the hand in recruitment and learn from the mistakes they've perhaps made in previous years?
Well, I think we need to find out what's next month or two first, what got in store for us. And this is where the funny bit is. The planning for next season is almost like it's difficult to forecast. So it almost put our recruitment for next season, they put it in the back burners because we're trying to survive now as a football club. We've got the situation with football stopped. We got the obligation to pay our players, staff. So for me, the priority changed now. It's not about, like we chatted about at the beginning of the conversation, it's not a time for selfish decision now. It's a time for, and certainly for me, and I've told this to my players, it's not about me. It's about the football club. It's about the survival football club. I've got to make sure that next season, Oldham Athletic is a club financially sound first and foremost. Make sure that there is a football club. If I go without paying for a month or two, and I can survive that, as long as the football club survive, that's fine. And like I said, I think the important thing is for football club to survive first and foremost. It's not the time to be talking about recruitment yet. Because, like I said, I think we've got a bigger challenge right now.
If you could have one message to the Oldham fans about, what you want to achieve and how you're going to go about it, what would you say to them right now?
There is a big divide with Oldham Athletic. The fan base is huge. It's if we get that club going, you will get going. Momentum is a funny thing, And like I said, if you get promotion from League 2 to League 1. I'm confident we can be pushing up to go to the Championship. To do that, you need togetherness first and foremost. You need to back that team on the grass every Saturday, home and away, and I will be relentless. I will turn every stone to make sure to bring that success to the football club. It's not easy. It's going to be difficult without a shadow of a doubt. Everybody wanna bring success. It's not easy, but I will work tirelessly, which I always do, to make sure that get Boundary Park bouncing next season, and we'll make sure that we are at the right end of the table next season with the players that they understand the pride of wearing that badge of Oldham Athletic. Oldham Athletic is a historic club. They had a lot of fantastic, huge players in the past. There were semi-finals FA Cup. They were ex-Premier League club. It's a huge football club. And I've got to make sure that I've got a squad of players. They care about that badge and they give performance to their fans. Even on a bad day, I want to see that team getting standing ovation from the fans. And like I said, it's not going to be easy, but that's my vision for it. My vision is to make sure that we paint the town blue and white, and I will be telling my players, let's visualize together that open bus stop through the town together with a promotion, with medal in our chest, and we see how big the town is.
Excellent. It's been an absolute pleasure, Dino, having you on the podcast. And I do realise we have gone over 30 minutes, but with things as they are, I expect people will appreciate having a little bit longer to listen to this. So thank you so much for your time today.
I hope people enjoy it. I hope I haven't been spoke too much. I always do. And thank you so much for the call, and keep yourself safe. And hopefully everybody will stay home and stay safe. And the sooner that happens, the sooner we'll get back to football again.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's Dino Maamria, everyone. A brilliant listen. I hope you found it. But we'll be back soon with another one of these 30 minutes with. Until then, everyone stay safe and look after each other. Goodbye.